Elias Turner had been on the road for many days, guiding a small supply wagon across the desert for a trading group that hired him as a scout. His work was simple: watch the horizon, look for danger, and make sure everyone reached their destination safely. When the job ended, Elias decided to rest in a nearby desert trading post before returning to his quiet cabin in the hills. He expected nothing unusual that day. He only wanted a warm meal, water, and a place to stretch his tired legs. The trading post was loud and busy. Merchants shouted about their goods, horses kicked dirt into the hot air, and travelers bargained over blankets and tools. Elias walked slowly, keeping his hat low to block the bright sun. He passed a line of stalls selling everything from dried meat to pottery. Nothing seemed strange at first. But then, as he moved behind a row of old wooden crates near the back of the post, he heard something out of place: metal clinking, soft breathing, and a sound almost like a quiet sob someone was trying to hide. Elias paused. Over the years, he had learned to pay attention to every small sound. Trouble often revealed itself softly before it shouted loudly. He stepped closer, careful not to startle whoever was there. When he rounded the corner, he froze. In the shadow of a large wagon sat a young Apache woman, her hands locked in tight iron cuffs chained to the wagon wheel. Her hair was messy from dust, her clothes worn from rough travel, and her skin marked where the metal had rubbed too hard. But her eyes, deep, dark, steady, held strength and pride even though she looked exhausted. Elias felt a twist in his chest. No one deserved to sit chained like this, especially not someone who looked terrified and alone. He took a quiet step forward, making sure she saw him before he came too close. Her head lifted suddenly. For a moment, fear flashed in her eyes, as if she expected another man to mistreat her. Elias raised both hands slowly to show he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you," he said gently. "Are you all right?" The woman hesitated, her breath shaky. Then she whispered in a soft, almost broken voice, "Please, help me." She spoke English clearly but with an accent, each word heavy with fear. "They took me. I only want to go home." Elias felt anger rise in him, not at her, but at whoever chained her like this. He looked around, trying to guess who might be responsible. A group of rough-looking men stood nearby, talking loudly and laughing. They didn't seem concerned about the woman chained only a few steps away. Before approaching them, Elias crouched nearer so the woman could speak if she wished. "What is your name?" he asked quietly. "Nayeli," she replied, her voice trembling. "They said I was dangerous, but I did nothing." Elias nodded slowly. Her eyes told him more truth than any loud merchant could offer. He stood and walked toward the men. As he approached, one of them noticed him and frowned. "Something you need, traveler?" the man said, crossing his arms. "That woman," Elias said firmly. "Why is she chained?" The men exchanged looks, quickly inventing lies. "She attacked travelers," one said. "We stopped her before she hurt someone." Elias didn't believe a word. He had seen real danger before, real violence, real threats. The woman behind the wagon was weak from hunger, shaking from fear, and barely able to sit upright. She was no threat to anyone. "She doesn't belong in chains," Elias said. "Let her go." The oldest man smirked. "If you want her free, pay for the trouble she caused." Elias's jaw tightened. They treated her like an object, not a human being. He hated every part of this. But he also knew arguing further would end badly. If paying a small price was the only way to stop this cruelty, then he would do it, only to free her, nothing else. "How much?" he asked sharply. The man named a number that was unreasonable, clearly trying to take advantage. Elias glared at him until he lowered the price. With a hard breath, Elias pulled coins from his small leather pouch and handed them over. The men grinned as if they had won something important. But Elias didn't care about them. He cared only about freeing the woman. He walked back to Nayeli with the key the men tossed at him. She watched him cautiously, unsure if he was truly on her side. Kneeling beside her, Elias unlocked the cuffs and gently guided the metal away from her bruised wrists. The moment the chains fell, her arms dropped weakly, as though she had carried a heavy weight for far too long. "You're free," he said softly. "No one will hurt you now." Nayeli tried to stand, but her legs shook under her. She had been tied for many hours, maybe even days. She swayed, and Elias quickly steadied her without grabbing too tightly. She didn't flinch at his touch, only breathed out a soft sound of relief. The sun was scorching, and she looked faint. Elias lifted her carefully into his arms, knowing she wouldn't be able to walk far. She didn't resist. Instead, she closed her eyes, trusting him because she had no strength left to do anything else. He carried her through the crowded post. People stared, some curious, some confused, but no one challenged him. Elias made his way to a small mission outpost on the far side of the trading area. The mission was simple: white walls, shaded porches, and a few beds for travelers or people in need. The nuns who worked there were used to seeing people hurt by the harshness of the land. Sister Amalia, a calm, older woman, hurried over when Elias entered with Nayeli. "What happened?" she asked with concern. "She was chained," Elias said simply. "She needs food, water, and rest." The nun guided them to a quiet room with clean blankets. Elias placed Nayeli gently on the bed. Her eyes fluttered open, and she looked at him with gratitude so strong it made him pause. She whispered something in her own language, soft and emotional. He didn't know what she said, but he understood the meaning. It was thanks, deeper than words. Sister Amalia gave her water and checked her bruises. Nayeli drank slowly, her hands trembling. Elias waited nearby, not wanting to leave until he knew she was safe. When Nayeli finished drinking, she turned her head toward him. "You helped me when no one else would," she whispered. "Why?" Elias thought for a moment, then answered with quiet honesty. "Because no one should suffer like that. You were alone. I could not walk away." Nayeli's eyes softened. For the first time since he found her, she looked less afraid. She rested her head back on the pillow and breathed out a long, shaky sigh, letting her tired body relax at last. As the sun set outside the mission walls, Elias sat by the doorway, keeping watch. He didn't know who those men were or whether they might cause more trouble, but he knew one thing clearly. Nayeli was not safe alone, and he wasn't going to leave her unprotected. The desert night grew cool, and the mission grew quiet. Elias glanced at the doorway to her room. He had rescued her, but his instincts told him her story wasn't finished. Not for her and not for him. He didn't know it yet, but this moment, this choice to stop and listen to a faint clinking of chains, would change both of their lives forever. For the first time in many days, Nayeli woke to silence instead of rough voices or rattling chains. She felt the soft weight of a blanket over her and smelled warm bread from somewhere nearby. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the calm light coming through the small window of the mission room. At first she wondered if she was dreaming because the peacefulness felt unreal after everything she had endured. She turned her head and saw Elias sitting on a wooden chair near the door, half asleep with his hat resting on his knee. His posture was relaxed, but his hand rested close to the knife at his belt, as if he was ready to defend the room at any second. He looked tired, but there was a steady calm on his face that made him seem trustworthy. Nayeli watched him quietly. She remembered the moment he had lifted her from the ground, how gentle his hands were even when he had to carry her. She remembered his voice telling her she was safe. Every memory came back slowly, like soft waves returning to the shore. When she tried to sit up, the blanket shifted and made a small sound. Elias stirred immediately, opening his eyes. For a moment, he looked confused, but when he saw her awake, he straightened and spoke softly. "You're up. How do you feel?" Nayeli's voice was still weak, but stronger than the day before. "Better," she answered. "Thank you for staying." Elias nodded almost shyly. "Didn't want to leave you alone. After what happened, I thought it was best to keep watch until morning." There was a pause before Nayeli spoke again. I thought they might come back for me." Elias leaned forward slightly, his expression firm. "Not while I'm here. No one is taking you again." His words were spoken with such simple certainty that they settled inside her heart like a warm light. She looked down at her wrists, still marked with red circles from the cuffs. She touched them gently, feeling both pain and relief. Just then, Sister Amalia came into the room carrying a bowl of warm soup. Her smile was kind when she approached the bed. "Good morning, child. You must eat. Strength will return faster with food." Nayeli accepted the bowl and began eating slowly. The warmth soothed her empty stomach. Elias watched quietly, not wanting to interrupt. When she finished, the nun checked her injuries and nodded approvingly. "You are healing well. Rest more today. Your body needs time." After the nun left, the room felt quiet again. Elias stood, stretching his stiff arms. "If you're feeling stronger, would you like to walk a little? Not far, just outside this room. It might help." Nayeli hesitated. The memory of the men, the chains, the fear. Everything still felt close. But the mission was peaceful, and Elias was by her side. "Yes," she whispered. "I will try." Elias stepped carefully to her side, offering his hand but not forcing her to take it. She held onto his arm for balance and stood slowly. Her legs trembled at first, but with a few small steps, she steadied herself. They walked together to the porch where the morning sun warmed the air. Nayeli breathed in the fresh scent of the desert, mixed with the smell of bread from the small kitchen. Birds chirped in the trees near the mission fence. The world felt gentle in a way she hadn't experienced for a long time. They sat on a wooden bench outside. Elias rested his elbows on his knees, looking forward, giving her space to think. After a few minutes, Nayeli spoke quietly. "I thought I would never be free again. When you came, I did not believe any stranger could help me." Elias turned his head slightly toward her. "I only did what anyone should have done." "No," Nayeli said with soft but strong emotion. "Many people saw me. They walked past me. They looked and then they looked away. You were the only one who stopped." Her voice trembled at the edge of tears, but she blinked them away. She did not want to appear weak, though Elias had already seen her at her lowest moment. He didn't say anything at first. He simply watched the horizon, thinking. Then he answered, "My mother used to say that a person's worth is shown when they help someone who cannot help them back. Maybe that's why I stopped. Maybe I thought of her." Nayeli turned her eyes toward him, listening closely. He rarely spoke of himself, she realized. He seemed like a man who carried many thoughts, but shared only a few. Elias continued. "She always taught me to treat people with respect. Before she passed, she said the world will test a person's heart in unexpected ways." He looked at Nayeli. "I think yesterday was one of those tests." Nayeli felt something shift inside her. This man spoke simply, but his words carried truth. She saw no selfish desire in him, only kindness and a quiet strength. A gentle breeze lifted a strand of her hair, and she tucked it behind her ear. "Where will you go now?" she asked. Elias hesitated. "I hadn't thought about it. I was planning to head home after finishing my work, but He stopped, unsure if he should continue. "But what?" Nayeli asked. "But I think I should stay here until you are fully safe. I don't trust those men. If they see you again, they might try something." Nayeli felt a mix of relief and gratitude. "I do not want to be a burden." "You're not," Elias said firmly. "You didn't choose what happened. Staying isn't trouble for me." For a while they sat quietly. A few children from the mission played nearby. One little girl approached with a shy smile, holding a small clay bead bracelet. She handed it to Nayeli without a word, then ran back to her friends. Nayeli looked at the bracelet in her palm, touched by the simple kindness. Elias watched her reaction. "Kids here like giving gifts to new visitors," he said softly. "Makes them feel helpful." Nayeli nodded, rolling the bracelet gently between her fingers. "It is beautiful." After some time, Nayeli grew tired again, and Elias guided her back to the room to rest. She laid down, and he returned to his chair. Hours passed quietly. The sun climbed high, then slowly lowered, filling the room with golden light. When Nayeli woke again, she found Elias sitting still, sharpening a small blade lightly against a stone. The sound was soft and steady. She watched him for a moment, then spoke. "Elias, may I ask something?" He looked up. "Of course. Why do you travel alone? Do you have no family waiting for you?" Elias paused, the knife going still in his hand. "I had family once," he said simply. "My parents passed when I was young. I lived with my uncle for a time, but he moved east. Since then, I've been on my own." Nayeli felt a quiet sadness for him. He said it without emotion, but she sensed the loneliness behind his words. "And you?" he asked gently. Nayeli lowered her eyes. "My family is far. They do not know where I am. I worry they think I am gone forever." Elias's voice softened. "We'll get you home. When you're strong enough, I'll take you as close as I can." She lifted her gaze, surprised. "You will help me return?" "Yes," Elias said. "If you want to go, I'll help you get there." Nayeli stared at him with deep emotion. She had felt abandoned by the world, but this man, this quiet stranger, kept giving her reasons to believe in kindness again. When night came, she lay awake longer than usual, listening to the soft sounds of the mission. Elias sat by the door once more, keeping guard as if it were natural for him to protect her. She watched him silently, her heart full of gratitude she did not yet know how to express. She didn't know where their journey would lead, but she felt safer at his side than she had felt in many months. Little by little, trust began to take root between them. Soft at first, but growing stronger with each hour that passed. And though neither of them could see it yet, this bond would guide them through dangers, storms, and long miles of desert that awaited them in the days ahead. Nayeli woke before sunrise the next morning, the sky outside still a soft gray. The mission was quiet, and the cool air felt gentle on her skin. She sat up slowly, testing her strength. Her body still ached, but not with the same heavy weakness as before. She felt stronger, more awake, and more certain that she had to keep moving forward. Elias was already awake. He stood outside the room, leaning against the wooden post of the porch, watching the first line of gold stretch across the horizon. He heard the soft steps behind him and turned. "You're up early," he said quietly. Nayeli wrapped the blanket around her shoulders and stepped beside him. "I could not sleep more," she answered. "The morning is peaceful." Elias nodded. "Today will be warm, but the air is good now. Better to breathe before the sun takes it." They stood side by side for a moment in comfortable silence. It felt natural, like they had known each other longer than a single day. After a few breaths, Nayeli spoke softly. "I must return home. My people, They will worry. Elias glanced at her gently. I know, and I meant what I said yesterday. When you are ready, I'll take you as far as I can. A look of relief crossed her face, but also something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name. Sister Amalia brought them simple breakfast, warm bread, a little fruit, and fresh water. Nayeli ate slowly while Elias checked his small pack. He made sure they had enough water skins, a few tools, and a blanket for travel. Everything he did with calm purpose, as if preparing for a long journey was something he had done 100 times. When Nayeli finished eating, she stood and tested her steps again. She walked more steadily now. Elias watched her carefully, not wanting to rush her but also understanding that she didn't want to stay in one place forever. "Do you feel strong enough to travel a little?" he asked. "Yes," she answered after a moment, "but I am slow." Elias smiled slightly. "I'm not in a hurry." With Sister Amalia's blessing, they packed what little they needed and left the mission behind. The rising sun painted the desert in soft reds and golds. Birds circled overhead, and the dusty road stretched out ahead like a long promise. At first, they walked quietly. Nayeli kept her eyes on the land, as if searching for familiar signs. Elias scanned the horizon for danger. Both moved with caution, but it was not the fearful caution of yesterday. It was the steady awareness of two people who understood the land and its dangers. After some time, Elias asked, "How far is your village?" Nayeli thought for a moment. "Maybe 5 days, maybe more. Depends on the path. But I know the signs. I know the mountains, the dry rivers, the stones that show the way." Elias nodded. "Then you'll guide us." A small smile touched her lips. "Yes, but you must listen closely. The desert changes. It remembers everything." Elias chuckled softly. "Then it knows more than I do." They walked for a few hours until the sun climbed higher and the heat grew strong. Elias spotted a small rocky ledge that offered shade, and they rested there. Nayeli drank water slowly, careful not to spill a drop. Elias watched her thoughtfully. "You're used to traveling this land," he said. "Yes," Nayeli replied. "My father taught me. He said the desert is not our enemy, it is our teacher." Elias let the words sink in. "Then I have a lot to learn." Nayeli looked at him with a soft curiosity. "You move carefully. You watch everything. You carry yourself like someone who has suffered but still stands." Elias didn't answer at first. He picked up a small stone and rolled it between his fingers. "I learned early that the world doesn't always give much, so you protect what you can, even if that's only yourself." Nayeli nodded slowly. "Yes, I understand this." As the heat eased a little, they continued walking. The land around them changed gently, small bushes, dry grass, and distant hills rising like shadows. Nayeli recognized the direction. She pointed to the right. "We must follow the old dry river. It will lead to safer ground." They turned toward it. The dry riverbed was cracked and pale, shaped by storms long past. Nayeli moved confidently, stepping from stone to stone, avoiding soft sand where snakes might hide. Elias followed closely, watching her movements and learning from them. An hour later, they heard distant voices, men's voices, echoing over the rocks. Elias stopped immediately, his body tense. Nayeli froze beside him, fear flashing in her eyes. The voices grew louder. Elias whispered, "Stay low." They crouched behind a large boulder. 3 riders appeared on the ridge above them. Their horses kicked dust into the air. Elias recognized one of the men. It was the same group from the trading post. He clenched his jaw. They were looking for her. Nayeli held her breath, her hand trembling slightly as she pressed it against the ground. Elias placed a steady hand on her shoulder, not to control, but to reassure. His calmness helped her breathe quietly. The riders paused, scanning the land. One of them shouted, "Tracks head this way!" Elias cursed silently. They had moved too slowly earlier. He whispered, "We have to move. Quietly, quickly." Naeli nodded, trusting his judgment. They slid from rock to rock, staying hidden in the shadows. The dry riverbed twisted sharply, and Elias led her toward a narrow gap between two large stones. They slipped through it just as the riders' voices drew closer again. When they were finally far enough to breathe normally, Elias stopped and looked at Naeli. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though her heart still pounded. "You saved me again." "We saved each other," he corrected. "You knew this land. You found places to hide." Their journey continued with more caution now. Elias walked closer to Naeli, ready to pull her behind cover if needed. She guided him through hidden paths she knew since childhood. Together, they moved like two halves of the same instinct, one with knowledge of the land, the other with knowledge of danger. By late afternoon, they reached a small canyon where a trickle of water flowed between rocks. Naeli knelt beside it, letting the cool water run over her fingers. Elias filled both water skins. "This place is safe," Naeli said softly. "My people stopped here many times." They decided to rest until evening. Elias gathered small sticks for a fire, but Naeli stopped him gently. "No fire," she whispered. "Smoke will speak to the sky. The men will see." He nodded, impressed by how much she understood. They sat under a shaded rock, sharing dried fruit and quiet conversation. Naeli looked at Elias thoughtfully after a long silence. "Why do you keep helping me? You do not know me." Elias took a breath before answering. "Maybe I don't know everything about you," he said, "but I know enough. You're brave. You didn't deserve what happened, and no one should face danger alone." Her eyes softened, shining with gratitude. You carry a heavy heart," she whispered. "But your spirit is kind." Elias looked away, almost embarrassed by the softness in her voice. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of seeing the world break good people." Naeli watched him with quiet admiration. She saw strength in him, not the loud, forceful kind, but the steady, dependable kind that made her feel safe for the first time in a long while. As the sun set, turning the canyon gold, Naeli leaned back against the rock. Elias kept watch beside her. Though the desert stretched endlessly around them, neither felt alone anymore. Their journey through dust and danger had only begun, but the bond growing between them was already stronger than either realized. The canyon was quiet when Naeli and Elias woke the next morning. A thin mist hovered over the stones, and the soft light made everything feel calm. But beneath that calm, both of them knew their journey was reaching a more dangerous point. They were close to Apache land now, and Elias understood that once they crossed further, every step would lead them deeper into places where he was a stranger, perhaps even unwelcome. Naeli sensed this too. As they packed their small things, she glanced at him several times with a thoughtful expression. He noticed it and asked, "Something on your mind?" She hesitated before speaking. "When we reach my people, they may not trust you. They do not trust outsiders easily." Elias nodded. "That makes sense. You saved me," she continued. "But they do not know you. They see all strangers as possible danger." Elias tied the last strap of his pack and looked at her with steady eyes. "If they're your people, then I'll respect their ways. I don't expect them to welcome me. I just want to get you home safely." His calm honesty eased her worry a little. She felt grateful for his understanding. She had seen many men become angry when something didn't go their way. Elias was different. He listened. He respected. That alone made him stand out. They left the canyon and followed the long stretch of dry land toward the rising hills ahead. As they walked, the wind carried faint scents of pine and earth, signs that the land was changing. Nayeli's steps grew more purposeful. Elias watched her navigate the ground with confidence he admired. After a few hours, she stopped and touched a cluster of stones arranged in a small circle on the ground. "My people do this," she said. "It means someone passed here not long ago." Elias crouched beside her. "You can tell who?" "Not exactly," she replied, "but it means we are close." They continued, but Elias noticed Nayeli growing quiet. Something weighed on her thoughts. After a while, he asked gently, "Are you afraid?" She slowed her steps. "I am afraid, but not of my people." "Then of what?" he asked. Nayeli took a long breath. "I fear they will judge you, and I do not want them to misunderstand. You helped me. You protected me. Without you, I would still be in chains." Elias gave her a soft smile. "If I must stand before them and explain, I will. I'm not worried." His words settled some of her fears, but she still felt the heaviness in her chest, the feeling that something important was coming. As the sun reached its highest point, they heard rustling nearby. Elias stopped immediately, his hand moving toward his belt. Nayeli touched his arm lightly. "Do not reach for your knife," she whispered. "My people watch from far. They test first." Elias trusted her and lowered his hand, though he stayed alert. A moment later, two Apache scouts stepped from behind the rocks. Their faces were stern, their bows drawn halfway but not aimed. The older scout, with sharp eyes and long braided hair, approached with a mixture of suspicion and surprise. Nayeli stepped forward before they could speak. "It is me," she said clearly. "I am Nayeli, daughter of Hania." The scouts froze in shock. One lowered his bow at once. "We searched for you," he exclaimed softly. "Your mother thought you were lost forever." Nayeli's eyes grew wet with relief, but she stayed steady. "I was taken. This man saved me. He freed me and brought me home." The scouts looked at Elias. Their expressions hardened again, not out of aggression but out of protective instinct. Elias stood still, showing he meant no harm. The older scouts circled him slowly, studying him. "Why does a stranger bring her here?" he asked Nayeli. "Because he has a good heart," she replied. "He helped me when no one else did." Elias stayed silent, letting her speak for him. Her voice was strong and steady, filled with truth. The younger scout spoke next. "Our chief will decide what happens. Follow us." Nayeli nodded. She turned to Elias and whispered, "Stay close. Do not show fear." "I'm all right," he assured her. They followed the scouts through narrow paths hidden by shrubs and rocks. The land slowly opened into a valley surrounded by tall cliffs. Smoke rose from small fires and dozens of homes built from wood and hides filled the center. Children ran between the houses and elders sat weaving baskets or preparing food. As they entered, the villagers turned to look. Some gasped when they saw Nayeli. Several women covered their mouths, crying softly. Others whispered her name with disbelief. Nayeli felt her throat tighten as she recognized old friends and distant relatives. She wanted to run into their arms, but she walked with dignity, knowing she needed to show she was strong. Then an older woman stepped from a large tent, Nayeli's mother. Her hair was streaked with gray, her face lined with worry that had lasted too long. The moment she saw Nayeli, her legs shook and tears filled her eyes. "Daughter," she breathed. Nayeli ran into her arms, and the two held each other tightly. People around them began to cry softly, relieved that someone they had mourned was truly alive. Elias stepped back respectfully, giving them space. He watched quietly, feeling warmth spread in his chest. Seeing Nayeli safe with her people felt like a victory greater than anything he had expected. But soon the chief, an older man with steady eyes and calm authority, approached. The scouts whispered to him, and his gaze shifted to Elias. Nayeli turned and walked to Elias's side, placing herself beside him. The chief raised an eyebrow but did not speak yet. He studied Elias with deep seriousness. Elias met his gaze without fear. Finally, the chief asked, "Stranger, why did you bring her here? What do you want from us?" Elias answered honestly, "Nothing. I don't want land or gold or favor. She needed help. I gave it. She wanted to come home. I brought her. That's all." The chief looked at Nayeli. "Is this true?" She nodded firmly. "All of it." The chief's sternness softened, though he still carried caution. "You risked much for her," he said to Elias. "Why?" Elias thought for a moment before answering. "Because it was right." A quiet murmur passed through the gathered people. The chief exchanged a look with Nayeli's mother, then stepped closer to Elias. "You will stay here," the chief said. "Not as a prisoner, but as a guest. We must understand your spirit before we judge it." Elias nodded. "I'll respect your rules." Nayeli felt relief wash over her. The worst she had feared did not happen. As the village began to celebrate her return with food and songs, Nayeli walked with Elias to a quiet corner near the edge of the camp. "You were brave today," she said softly. He chuckled gently. "I just stood still and tried not to look like trouble." "But you could have been driven away," she whispered. "You could have been hurt. Yet you came with me anyway." Elias met her eyes, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Something warm and unspoken passed between them. Trust, gratitude, and a bond deeper than simple friendship. Nayeli stepped closer, her voice a quiet promise. "I will speak for you. My people will know your heart. I want them to understand who you truly are." Elias felt something stir in him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. And as night settled over the valley, with the village celebrating her return, both of them felt that their story was far from over. Something new was just beginning. That night, the village was filled with joy and noise. People talked, laughed, and sang around the fires. The air smelled of roasted corn and warm bread. Children danced between the tents, and elders shared stories of long ago. Everyone was celebrating Nayeli's return, for she had been gone so long that many had feared the worst. Now she stood among them like someone who had returned from darkness into light. Elias watched everything from a small distance. He didn't want to intrude, but he didn't hide. He leaned against a wooden pole and observed the community with quiet interest. He saw how gently the villagers welcomed Nayeli back. He saw how they touched her shoulders and cried with happiness. It warmed him, even though he knew he was still a stranger in their eyes. But he never felt unwelcome. No one glared at him with hatred. There was curiosity, caution, and respect. And that was enough for now. Nayeli's mother came to Elias after some time. She stood with her hands folded gently. Her eyes were warm but sharp. Studying him carefully, Elias straightened out of respect. "You helped my daughter," she said softly. "I thank you." Elias bowed his head. "She is strong. She saved herself many times. I only did my part." Nayeli's mother smiled faintly. "She told me everything. How you found her, freed her, cared for her, and how you never once treated her with disrespect." She touched her chest lightly. "For this, you will always have my gratitude." Elias felt an unusual warmth settle inside him. "I'm glad she is safe," he said honestly. Nayeli's mother studied him a moment longer. Then she nodded and returned to the fire where her daughter stood. Nayeli looked toward Elias, her eyes soft and full of meaning. She excused herself from her family and walked to him. "You stand so far away," she said with a small smile. "Do you not want to join the celebration?" "I don't want to interrupt," Elias replied. "This is your moment." "My moment includes you," she said gently. "If you had not helped me, I would not be here." Elias looked away for a second, almost shy. "You give me too much credit." "No," Nayeli replied, stepping closer. "I give you the truth." They stood side by side, watching the fire dance in the center of the village. The stars shone brightly above, and the night breeze carried soft music. For the first time since Elias arrived, he felt a quiet sense of belonging. Not complete, but enough to warm him. Later, as the fires burned low and families returned to their tents, Nayeli led Elias to a small area near the edge of the village. She sat on a rock, and he sat a few steps away, careful to respect her space. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Nayeli turned to him. "When you brought me home today," she said softly, "I felt like I stepped into sunlight after being trapped in darkness." Elias listened quietly. "But even with all this joy," she continued, "I kept thinking about our journey, about the nights you stayed awake to protect me, the times you guided me through danger, the moments when you listened to my fears without judgment." Elias lowered his gaze to the ground. "Anyone with a decent heart would have done that." "Many people have hearts," Nayeli said, "but not all use them." Her words struck him deeply. She took a slow breath. "I want my people to know you, to trust you. But more than that, I want them to understand who you are to me." Elias felt something shift inside him. He looked at her, searching her face for meaning. "And who am I to you?" he asked quietly. Nayeli's voice grew warm and steady. "You are the one who saved my life, the one who protected me when I had no strength, the one who walked beside me with respect. You are someone I trust." The silence between them felt full, not empty. Elias spoke carefully. "I have never known someone like you. You're brave, patient, strong, stronger than anyone I've met. Walking beside you felt right. And seeing you safe here feels like something I'll remember my whole life." Nayeli looked at him with deep emotion. She felt her heart beating faster than before, but not with fear, with certainty. "I do not want you to leave," she whispered. Elias blinked, surprised. "I don't want to go. But this is your home, your people. I don't belong here." "You could," she answered softly. "If you choose to." He hesitated. "Would they accept someone like me?" "They will accept the man I speak for," she said, "and I will speak for you." Elias felt something warm and strong settle inside him, but he wanted to be sure. "Is this what you truly want?" "Yes," she replied without hesitation. "You did not treat me as someone helpless. You treated me as someone worth protecting. That means more than you understand." Elias breathed out slowly. He didn't smile widely, but his eyes softened. "Then I will stay, as long as they allow it." Nayeli felt relief wash through her. "Then tomorrow, we will speak to the elders. I will tell them everything." The next morning, after a long conversation with the chief and the elders, the village accepted Elias as an honored guest, not an outsider, not a threat, but someone who had proved his heart through action. The chief offered him a place to sleep, food to share, and tasks to help the community. Elias accepted with gratitude. Days passed, and Elias learned the ways of the people. He helped gather wood, repaired tools, hunted small game, and listened to their stories. They saw his honesty and strength. He never tried to push himself into their traditions. He learned with patience and respect. Nayeli watched him quietly each day. She saw how he adapted, how he listened more than he spoke, how he treated everyone with dignity. The bond between them deepened quietly, naturally. They walked together in the evenings, speaking softly about dreams, memories, hopes, and fears. It was never rushed, never forced. It grew like a slow, warm fire. Eventually, during a gathering where the tribe honored brave acts, Nayeli stepped forward and told her people the full story of how Elias had helped her. She spoke of his courage, his respect, and his kindness. The village listened with admiration. Then she turned to Elias, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "I choose a future where trust and respect guide our steps," she said. "I found safety with him. I found peace with him. And I hope he will walk with me in the days to come." Elias felt his heart beat hard in his chest. He stepped forward and answered with quiet sincerity. "I will walk beside you," he said, "not because you owe me anything, but because my heart leads me to you." The chief nodded approvingly. The people murmured with joy. There was no ceremony of ownership, no idea of possession, only a promise formed on mutual respect and choice. From that day on, Elias lived among the Apache as part of the community. Nayeli guided him through their customs, and he shared his skills in return. Together, they built a life filled with peace and cooperation. And when people told the story of Nayeli and Elias in the years to come, they did not speak of a woman in chains or a man saving her for reward. They spoke of two souls who found each other by chance, walked through danger together, and chose each other freely, building a future shaped by loyalty, courage, and gentle trust. Their story reminded everyone that kindness could cross any boundary and that two people from different worlds could become a single, strong light in a world full of shadows.